Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Azren, the language nerd here, owner of the Calgary Language Nerds, and welcome to today's podcast episode and, of course, YouTube video. I'd like to address three different topics today, one of which is related to personal development, and two of them are related to language learning. The topics are the following: how to reduce decision paralysis, especially when it comes to deciding how to spend your time. I've been wrestling with this one quite a bit recently, and I've stumbled upon some insights that hopefully will help you as they've been helpful for me. On the language learning side of things, I'd like to talk about two different topics. One of them is how important it is to know yourself as a language learner. And the second language learning topic is if you should switch languages because you're struggling with a language, meaning you're struggling with one language, should you switch to another language that's perhaps easier? Let's start with that the third topic there, the switching languages topic, because I think the answer is probably the most straightforward. So I was on Twitter earlier today and I saw someone tweet out a question, which was something like, should I switch from learning German to another language? She had a couple of her friends that were recommending to her that she considers switching to something like French, Italian, or something that would be easier for her. And this individual who tweeted this question was debating it, and she thought maybe that's a good idea. She ultimately wasn't sure, and she was trying to figure it out. When I saw this tweet, my initial impression was a feeling of surprise, because for me, when someone is struggling with something in a language, my default answer is usually something to the effect of, let's figure out how to overcome this challenge you're facing. Maybe you have a mental block about speaking. Well, let's figure out how to break the mental block. Maybe you don't understand a grammar point in Spanish. Well, let's figure out how you can figure that grammar point out. Maybe I can just explain it to you or give you exercises or a resource. Who knows? My default way of thinking, my default mentality is, hey, let's figure out how we can overcome this challenge. So I was even surprised to see that some people in her network were suggesting to her, maybe you should switch to an easier language. And my general rule of thumb, my general belief is something like this, that you shouldn't switch languages just because you're having a difficult time with something in the language you're currently trying to learn. Switching is generally not the right answer. There are some exceptions, of course. A couple common exceptions might be, A, you weren't really that serious about the language you're learning anyway. So I'll give you an example. About a year and a half ago, something like that, maybe 2 years ago, I spent a few weeks learning Korean. And I was learning it because I wanted to test some different language learning methods that I was curious if they would work for me or not. I'd also created a self-study curriculum, and I wanted to test it on myself to work out any kinks or problems with that self-study curriculum. And so I took a few weeks of Korean classes as a bit of a experiment, I guess you could say. But overall, I wasn't that serious about learning Korean. I didn't plan to continue learning it for years and years and years and years. In comparison to, for example, languages like French or Spanish or Mandarin, where I knew going in, this is going to be a long-term project. So if you're learning a language that maybe you weren't that serious about in the first place, maybe it's okay if you switch to another language, right? Maybe that's not a problem then. Another situation where perhaps it's okay to switch to another language would be if you're learning a language literally just for fun, for enjoyment. The same way some people might go golfing or play a sport or play hockey or do art and paint just as a form of enjoyment. Well, if you're in that position, then you're perfectly fine to switch to another language because you're doing it for fun. So if you don't like this language anymore and you're interested in another one, well, by all means, go ahead, because you're going to enjoy that more. And that's the thing that mattered to you more than anything else. So off you go. Those are a couple of examples of where it might be okay to switch languages. But generally, I would say stick with the language, ask for help, Google, watch YouTube videos, read books, try to figure out how you could overcome whatever challenge you're facing, and keep moving forward. Stick with that language. Don't switch. Moving on to another language learning topic, which is knowing how important it is for you to know yourself as a language learner. I'll give you an example here. For me as a language learner, when I learn languages, I feel like I need to be a little bit out of my depth, uncomfortable. And so a number of language learning strategies that I use make me feel a little bit out of my depth. I'll give you some examples here. Tomorrow, I'm going to be attending a Mandarin class at my local university, and this class is above my level. The professor, it's a funny story, the professor, when I told her I wanted to actually sign up for that class, she asked me specifically, point blank, "Oh, do you not care about your mark?" Because she thought that if I take that class, I'm not going to get the best mark in the class. Apparently, most of the people in the class are native speakers. They're people who maybe they're born in Canada, but Mandarin's their first language, or maybe they grew up a portion of their life in China and then they moved here, but they have a very strong level. Apparently, they're all mostly native speakers in that class. So the level of the class is very, very high. They're discussing the Cold War and they're writing essays about it. It's a very advanced class. But I'm going to attend it tomorrow. I'm going to sit in and give it a try because I need that feeling of being pushed past my comfort zone, even if it's just a little bit. Another example is I started to teach Mandarin. Particularly, I used to teach classes on how to write. So I had some writing related classes, reading and writing. I did that because I couldn't read and write, and I needed some external pressure, some external accountability to give me a reason, a real life reason that would have consequences to learn to practice my reading and writing. And so because I knew, I scheduled a free class that anyone can attend on March 12th or whatever date. Oh my God, today's March 8th. It's 4 days away. I better go learn 20 characters or something and learn them really well so I can teach it to the people who show up. And I have lots of different examples like that. I'll give one more for Gujarati. So I've started a Gujarati podcast. I haven't released it yet, but myself and the Gujarati instructor who works at the Calgary Language Nerds, we've been recording the episodes and we're going to start releasing them soon. Boy, I'm out of my depth there. I feel very nervous and awkward when I'm recording the episodes. I feel scared of being judged when people listen to the podcast. I'm scared of making mistakes. My podcast co-host, the instructor who works for me, she's a native speaker. She's obviously way stronger than me. So when we're discussing different topics in the podcast, she sounds far more eloquent than I ever would. And I feel quite awkward. But because of that, I know I'm going to get better because it gives me a real life reason with consequences to improve and work on my Gujarati. Consequences meaning if I don't get better, I'm going to have a painful, awkward, clumsy podcast recording every single week. So I better work on it a little bit and get better over time, improve over time. So for me, that's very important. But I said it's important for you to know yourself as a language learner because you might not thrive in that kind of environment. That might not be for you. And maybe it is. You have to figure out what kinds of environments are important for you and what kinds of strategies/resources are going to work for you. Now, when I say this, when I give this kind of advice, one of the questions that inevitably will pop up is, well, how do you get to know yourself as a language learner? Which is a great question. So I think I would say there's maybe two to three different things you can do. So the first thing is to experiment, read, and write. In fact, let's actually switch that order up. Read, write, and experiment. So what does that mean? Read. Read means learn more about language learning. Now, you don't have to do that through reading per se. You could do it through watching videos, for example, or listening to podcasts. But learn more about language learning. Look at academic sources where they've done research studies or things of that nature, and look at anecdotal evidence. What people just say on YouTube, their experience of how they learned Spanish, their experience of how they learned French, their experience of how they learn this language. Look at both and consume. The consuming will give you ideas of what things appeal to you and what things don't. You might hear someone who said, oh, the best way to learn is to fly to a country and just immerse yourself and talk to everyone, speak from day one. And you might have social anxiety, or maybe you're just very introverted and you think to yourself, I'm not going to do that. I also don't even have the funds to go travel abroad somewhere. Maybe you'll say that to yourself. And so a strategy like that maybe doesn't align, and you'll learn, maybe that's not for me. Let me watch some more videos. Let me read some more books. And then you come across someone like Steve Kaufman, who talks about lots of input and reading and listening and finding that comprehensible input. And you go, that really aligns with me. I think I could do that. So you develop some hypotheses about yourself. So that's the reading. The writing. Well, what's writing? Well, writing means, can you outline in clear terms to yourself in a written format, almost in a sense that someone else could read and they understand, what you're going to do to learn a language? What's your vision for how you're going to learn that language? And can you do so in a very specific way? A great tool I'll give you to do this, it's a lot of work, to be honest, but I think it is worth the time. I do this all the time. I find it incredibly helpful for not so much for languages, because that's something I've figured out, but other elements of my life, I do it all the time, is a website, which is, I think it's essay.app. I think that's what it is, essay.app. If you literally search I think it's essay.app. I'll put the link in the video/podcast description just to make sure. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And it's an app that basically guides you to write good essays. It is a paid app, but on the website, there's a section that says guide. And there's the entire, basically what the app would guide you to do. There's a written version of that guide. So you can just follow the guide and not even download the app, which is kind of cool. So I use that pretty frequently, to be honest, to write these. It's not even exactly an essay, but it gives me it's a personal essay, I guess. And it helps me structure my writing in a way so I can outline, okay, these are the steps I need to follow. This is what my plan of attack is. Okay, I got this. I want to improve my business in this way. Here's the plan. I want to get better in terms of health in this way. Here's the vision, right? And you can do the same thing for language. So I'd highly recommend that. So that's the reading, that's the writing. And of course, there's the experimentation, or maybe the implementation. You have to go and implement it and see what happens, right? Take some steps and see what happens when you tried this, what happens when you tried that, what happens when you did this method, what worked, what didn't. And you'll get to know yourself as a language learner that way. And the more you get to know yourself as a language learner, the more effective you'll be at learning languages. Common sense, right? All right, topic number 3. This is our personal development related topic about reducing this decision paralysis. So as you guys know, I work for myself. I run the Calgary Language Nerds. I teach various languages, and I have instructors who work for me. They teach other languages. We have 15 plus different languages we teach as I'm recording this podcast slash video. There's other projects I'm working on, such as self-study courses for a couple languages, a language revitalization project. So there's a number of things that we do at the Calgary Language Nerds. And when you work for yourself, you don't always have a set schedule. What that means is, in comparison to going to a job where, I go to work at this time, I come home at this time, I'm free after that, my boss tells me what to do. Well, when you work for yourself, you don't exactly have that. I decide what I have to do, basically at all times, basically. The exception being when I have regularly scheduled meetings or classes where I have to show up. But a significant percentage of my time, I get to pick what I do with it. And that leads to decision paralysis, because then you wonder, well, should I do marketing with this time? Should I answer my emails? Should I do invoicing? Should I do this? Should I make some social media content? Should I record a podcast? Should I work on a new marketing campaign? Should I prep for my lessons? You don't always know, because there's a huge number of things. There's so many things I could be working on that would be helpful. Or maybe, should I relax? Should I watch a TV show? Should I watch a movie? Should I hang out with my friends? There's an infinite number of decisions, and it can lead to stress, anxiety, so on and so forth. So I've figured out a couple of things that have been helping me to make to make decisions. So the first thing goes back to something I said earlier, which is that writing program, the essay.app, I believe it is. So that's been very, very helpful for me, because what I was able to do is I use that as a writing guide, and I basically drafted I suppose you could say, a vision of my professional and my personal life, to say, here's what I'm focusing on professionally, here's what I'm focused on personally, and here's how they actually tie together. And so I've drafted that, and that's provided a lot of clarity, which then helps me make decisions to say, okay, I know why I'm on this planet Earth. I've decided what my why is. I've decided a top level why. I know all the decisions have to tie into that why, so I can then decide, okay, should I watch TV, or should I work on this, or should I send invoices? And I think, well, my why that I've decided for the time being, it'll probably change, but for the time being, my why of being here on this planet is this. Well, those first two things don't really tie into that. And I've written a very detailed sort of essay, I suppose you could call it, and that's been very, very helpful. So that essay.app, that writing guide, which I've been using for quite some time now, it's not a recent development, but maybe it's one of the first times I'm talking about it. And that's been very, very helpful recently in terms of reducing that decision paralysis. The second thing has been and versus or thinking. So I have to credit this one to Gary Vaynerchuk. I once saw a video, I don't know when it was, but he was talking about and versus or thinking. So or means, should I do this or that? Should I eat this or should I eat that? Should I go here? Should I go there? And is saying, I should do this and that. I should do this and that. I should go there and go there. Because you really have time for both at the end of the day. And for me, often what I was doing when I was feeling this decision paralysis is I was in or mode. I was thinking to myself, well, there's two decisions I can make here, and one of them is right and one of them is wrong, which, by the way, is often, not always, but often not the case. Often there's both decisions are just fine, actually. There's two different pathways forward. So often when I had those kinds of decisions, I would think to myself, or should I do this or that? And I thought one is right and one is wrong. But as soon as I changed and I thought, oh, I can do this and that, it's just a matter of time. I do this one now, the other thing in 3 hours or whatever. I felt like, and I continue to feel like I get the best of both worlds. The other thing with that the and versus or thinking is it usually requires me to focus a bit more, because I might think to myself, I don't want to do this because I only have 6 hours left in the day and I don't think I have time for it all. But the second I go, well, I'm going to do both. Let me see if there's a way to get both done. Makes me focus more, right? Gets my juices going. It makes me open my mind to different possibilities, makes me creative, and it wakes you up. It gets you out of that anxiety mode of being overwhelmed by the world, and you take that horse by the reins instead, and it gives you a chance of being more in control. So that's been very helpful for me as well. The other thing I've been doing too, and this is more for unimportant decisions, this sounds so silly, but for unimportant decisions, I've started flipping a coin. I started this yesterday. So I'll give an example. I was at an event the other day, yesterday actually, and with a friend of mine, and I was kind of thirsty. I was a little bit thirsty. There's like a water fountain that I could drink from. And then there's you could buy like drinks, alcoholic or non-alcoholic. There was juice, there was water bottles, there was a number of choices, right? And I was thinking to myself, okay, this sounds so stupid, but this is what was going on in my head. Should I drink from the water fountain, or should I go to the bar and should I get something from there? Should I buy some juice? Like, should I get a water bottle? Maybe I won't drink anything and I'll just drink something after. I wonder how long this event is. It's probably like an hour, right? I could last an hour without water. Well, I got to go home. How long is my drive home? Is that a long drive home? Maybe I'll be thirsty. Okay, maybe I should drink some water from the water fountain. But then if I drink water from the water fountain, maybe I won't get a nice yummy juice. And then a juice, I won't be thirsty for it. Then I'll feel like I missed out on the juice. Okay, maybe I'll get some juice. Oh, but juice has sugar. Oh man, it's not very healthy for you. How healthily have I eaten today? Oh, I didn't eat very healthily today, did I? But yesterday I ate pretty, and it literally, my brain can go on forever. That's how my brain often works, often. And at the end of the day, it is a very unimportant decision. If I get water fountain, like it's a very unimportant decision. And what I have a tendency to do, and maybe some of you can relate, the tendency I have is my brain starts to overheat rather. It starts to overheat. I start to think so much, my brain starts to overheat. Kind of like when a computer is overheating and the fan's going off, it's getting hot. So my brain does that. And for me, when that happens, I get lethargic, I get stressed, and I get quite unfocused. I can't really focus, and I feel scattered as opposed to nice and unified, very in alignment. I feel very scattered and weak and lethargic and tired and stressed. I feel awful. And that's not a good feeling. So what I've started to do, literally yesterday, I started to do this, and it's been working so far, is I'll think about it. I'll think about the decision. It's an unimportant decision, but of course you don't know it at the moment. You don't realize it's not important. You think about it. I'll debate, and I'll go, okay, I've been debating a little while. Let's just flip a coin. Bring, flick a coin. Heads do this, tails do that. I will listen to whatever the coin says. Off you go. And I've started to do that. The other thing I haven't done, but I've been thinking about, is I've realized that many of the decisions I debate in a day are actually not that important. Most of them are not super important. So most of them, I can probably flip a coin and off you go. Right? Most of them. So anyway, let's wrap this podcast up here. Thank you for watching the video / listening to the podcast. Hope you guys found it helpful. And we'll chat later. Bye-bye. See you.